What if I told you that everything you believed about winter survival is just the tip of the iceberg, and that the reality is actually quite different? These days, modern people expend enormous resources and do everything in their power to hide from the slightest chill within the walls of their warm homes. We've grown accustomed to viewing the cold as our worst enemy. However, the indigenous peoples of the Great Plains of North America saw the world quite differently. For them, the harsh, bone-chilling cold was not a threat. It was their most valuable and practical resource. They developed survival methods so unique and paradoxical that they completely defy our modern, comfortable way of life and the laws of logic. Imagine this. Where a European would freeze to death in a matter of hours, these warriors and hunters felt completely safe, using nature itself as a faithful ally. But how can you turn the icy elements into building materials, weapons, and even medicine? Be sure to watch this video all the way to the end. You won't just learn how ancient tribes turned deadly frost into their primary tool for survival on the open prairie. You'll discover the secret of a forgotten ice hunting technique that seems utterly impossible from the perspective of modern science. Are you ready for the shocking truth? The Lakota deliberately went to sleep in clothes soaked through in the middle of a harsh, snowy winter. To a modern city dweller, this sounds like a surefire way to get rapidly and severely hypothermic. However, indigenous peoples had a completely different understanding of the thermoregulatory processes of the human body. This unusual method was used to harden the body to the extreme before long, freezing months spent in the open. The procedure began with plunging into an icy river, fully clothed in thick, everyday garments. Upon reaching the shore, the person made no rush to change into dry, warm clothes. Instead, they wrapped themselves tightly in additional cloaks and lay down to rest on the frozen ground. Moisture inside the cocoon of thick fabric began to slowly evaporate under the influence of natural body heat. This process created a unique microclimate that forced the body to work at the limits of its physical capabilities. During this sleep, the body expended a tremendous amount of energy to maintain its internal temperature. The body's internal systems shifted into a mode of intensified heat generation necessary for survival. Gradually, the damp clothing dried completely, relying solely on the sleeper's own internal resources. Upon waking, the person became incredibly resilient to any sudden external fluctuations in winter temperatures. Such a practice required tremendous endurance and a very long period of adaptation spanning many years. The sharp temperature contrast triggered processes that accelerated metabolism several times over. Heat production increased so much that the top layer of snow often melted around the resting person. Such regular training made the skin much less susceptible to the biting, icy winds of the open plains. As a result, people could comfortably stay out in the cold without heavy outer clothing that restricted their movement. They freely performed daily tasks outdoors without the risk of suffering serious frostbite. This method of hardening had profound practical significance for the nomadic inhabitants of the Great Plains. They viewed the surrounding cold not as a hostile force of nature, but as a stern natural teacher. Overcoming severe discomfort strengthened the willpower and overall endurance of every individual tribe member. The ability to quickly dry clothes with one's body heat was considered a sign of excellent physical health. That is precisely why such overnight stays were an integral part of preparing for the approaching harsh winter. It is important to note the correct choice of location for such a specific and dangerous extreme activity. People always sought reliable shelter from the direct wind, using the natural contours of the local terrain. They lay down on thick bedding made of branches to avoid prolonged contact with the ice. Thick capes draped over them served as a barrier, trapping precious heat inside this unique sleeping cocoon. Thanks to this, excess moisture escaped outward, while the body itself remained relatively safe. Waking up in the morning, a trained person felt an extraordinary surge of vigor and renewed physical energy. Their muscles were thoroughly warmed up, and their mind remained crystal clear and fully focused. Clothes that had been damp overnight had turned into completely dry armor, ready to protect against the daytime frost. This incredible technique allowed them to conserve resources and avoid relying on constantly building huge fires. It gave them an undeniable advantage during long treks across the endless, snow-covered white expanses. No modern sleeping bag can replicate this ancient method of adapting to the climate. The secret lay in the complete unity of the person with the harsh environment of the boundless Great Plains. People simply accepted the local cold as a given and forced their bodies to adapt to the weather. They harmoniously wove their daily habits into the unforgiving seasonal cycles of North American nature. This harmony made them virtually invulnerable to the elements that so terrify modern city dwellers. Today, such independent experiments without years of preparation would inevitably lead to catastrophic consequences. Our bodies have long since lost the historical ability to generate internal, life-saving heat so quickly and effectively. We have grown accustomed to relying entirely on central heating and high-tech synthetic fabrics. Ancient people carried a source of heat within themselves, constantly and methodically training this skill. Their survival depended solely on their own endurance and impeccable knowledge of nature's strict laws. This example vividly demonstrates the huge difference between the past and the present. It would be very interesting to hear your perspective on such harsh survival methods. What do you think about this extreme way of drying wet clothes on your own body? Share your detailed thoughts in the comments below this historical video. Be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new fascinating stories about the past. The hidden truth that everyone keeps quiet about lies in their completely unusual attitude toward fire. When a modern person gets very cold, they immediately reach for an open flame to warm their frozen hands. The Lakota strictly forbade such behavior after a long exposure to the intense, biting winter cold. They understood perfectly well that a sudden temperature change destroys the frozen cells of the human body. This strict rule of recovery was strictly observed by everyone across the Great Plains. Instead of quickly warming up near a heat source, the tactic of slow and gradual recovery was always employed. Upon returning from the cold, a person would remain in the cool part of the dwelling, away from the burning hearth. They would begin to vigorously rub their frozen limbs with dry, loose snow or a piece of stiff cloth. This stimulated the return of normal blood circulation without the dangerous and shocking direct thermal impact. Only after sensation had fully returned was a person allowed to approach the life-giving warmth of the central fire. Rapid warming by the fire always causes the outer layers to thaw too quickly. The inner tissues, however, remain cold, which disrupts the normal flow of fluids in the frozen limbs. This causes severe swelling and often leads to irreversible damage to the complex cellular structure. Indigenous peoples knew about this phenomenon solely from their centuries-old practical experience of survival. Their methods of frostbite prevention worked flawlessly in the most difficult and unpredictable winter conditions. Sometimes cool water from nearby clean bodies of water or streams was used for gentle warming. Frozen hands were immersed in a deep container of water, the temperature of which was just above freezing. Gradually, the cold water was replaced with slightly warmer water, giving the body the necessary time to adapt. This gradual transition completely eliminated thermal shock and preserved the integrity of vital skin tissues. This method required great patience and iron discipline from absolutely every adult. This fundamental principle applied not only to the hands but to the entire body. It was strictly forbidden to sit close to a hot fire immediately upon returning from a long winter trek. People first removed their frozen outer clothing and allowed their bodies to acclimate to the temperature inside the shelter. Only after a certain amount of time could they enjoy a full rest by the glowing red embers. Such caution allowed them to maintain their ability to work and avoid serious consequences for their physical health. The wisdom of these peoples lay in their careful and constant observation of the natural processes around them. They saw how the spring sun always slowly melts the ice without destroying the structure of the solid ground. They applied the same principle of gradualness to the care of their own fragile physical bodies. They never rushed the natural processes of recovery, allowing nature to do its necessary work. This mindful approach ensured a long and very active life, even in the harshest climatic conditions. Modern rescue specialists still use similar principles when assisting victims. The rule of gradual warming is considered the gold standard in extreme medicine throughout the modern world. The indigenous people discovered this immutable law of survival many centuries ago without laboratories or instruments. Their valuable knowledge was constantly passed down from generation to generation through strict rules of conduct during the winter. Mistakes in these matters were too costly, so general discipline was always impeccable. The inhabitants of the Great Plains have always treated fire with deep respect and great caution. They regarded the flame as a powerful force that demands extremely careful and mindful handling every day. The fire warmed the large dwelling and helped cook food, but it also harbored a threat. That is why the distance between a freezing person and the burning logs was maintained with almost mathematical precision. This was not merely a local rule for survival, but part of their philosophy of interacting with the elements. Such everyday practices made the members of these tribes incredibly resilient people in the subarctic regions. They could spend hours outdoors in extremely low winter temperatures. Their bodies were conditioned to recover slowly and safely after even the most severe weather trials. This gave them the freedom to move safely even during the strongest and most prolonged blizzards. They viewed nature as home, not as a hostile environment for constant battle. This wise approach to staying warm saved countless lives in the snow-covered expanses. In the next chapter, you will learn how they coped with the need to quench their thirst in the freezing cold. Why do you think modern people have completely lost this natural resistance to the cold? An experiment that didn't go according to plan could have cost them their lives, but they drank only ice-cold water. During the harshest winter frosts, the indigenous people deliberately consumed water that had barely melted from the ice. For a modern person, a glass of such liquid in the freezing cold would inevitably have serious consequences. However, the inhabitants of the plains used this unconventional method for daily internal training of their robust bodies. It was a deliberate practice to strengthen their vitality and increase the overall endurance of the human body. Consuming icy water forced the internal organs to instantly operate in a mode of maximum heat dissipation. The body reacted to the cold stimulus with a sudden surge of energy to the organs of the digestive tract. This caused intense dilation and subsequent constriction of the blood vessels, which served as a kind of internal exercise. Such training made the circulatory system incredibly strong and resistant to any temperature stresses. As a result, a person simply stopped feeling cold even during prolonged exposure to a biting wind. Icy drinking water was usually taken from holes cut in frozen rivers and deep, clear lakes. People would go out specifically for it early in the morning, when the night frost was at its strongest. This daily morning ritual helped them fully wake up and recharge with energy for the entire day ahead. Water from natural sources was considered the main source of strength and inexhaustible vital energy. It was drunk only in small sips, allowing the life-saving cold to slowly spread throughout the body. This harsh habit was formed over the years, becoming a natural need for a trained and strong body. An attempt to drink warm or heated water was perceived by many as a sign of weakness, unworthy of a resilient person. The cold liquid perfectly invigorated the internal organs and instantly restored clarity to a weary mind. It made the heart beat steadily and powerfully, carrying life-saving warmth to all the distant extremities. This is precisely how the legendary resilience of these people to the harsh climate of the plains was forged. It is important to understand that this practice never led to hypothermia of the internal organs. The main secret lay in an excellent metabolism, which instantly compensated for any loss of heat. The body generated heat at such an incredible rate that the icy water quickly warmed up inside. This constant internal fire effectively maintained an optimal body temperature under absolutely any conditions. Modern people have practically lost this amazing ability to rapidly self-regulate their bodies. Drinking very cold beverages in winter also made profound practical sense in terms of conserving resources. There was no need to waste precious firewood on constantly boiling clean drinking water. Dry branches and stored firewood were saved for heating homes during the coldest and darkest nights. This simple practicality allowed entire settlements to survive under conditions of limited solid fuel supplies. They took from the surrounding nature exactly as many resources as were absolutely necessary for life. This ancient method of hardening the blood vessels from within organically complemented external practices of interacting with the cold. The body regularly received a kind of vaccination from the cold, becoming impervious to harsh external factors. People could stay outdoors for an indefinite amount of time without experiencing the slightest discomfort or shivering. Their trained bodies functioned like perfect mechanisms, ideally tuned for survival in a harsh environment. Such excellent physical condition was a reliable guarantee of successful existence across the vast expanses of the continent. Modern scientific research confirms the undeniable benefits of controlled exposure to cold on the human body. Regular consumption of cool water does indeed stimulate metabolic processes and effectively strengthens blood vessel walls. However, the staggering scale of this practice among the tribes of the Great Plains still amazes scientists. They perfected this everyday method to absolute perfection, turning it into a true art of survival. Their invaluable experience clearly demonstrates just how limitless the hidden potential of our own bodies is. Today, few city dwellers would dare to repeat this ancient ritual without serious concerns for their health. Our natural immunity has been severely weakened by comfortable living conditions and the hothouse microclimate of modern city apartments. We immediately bundle up in warm clothes and drink scalding hot tea at the slightest sign of an autumn chill. Indigenous peoples boldly drew their health from the harshest of nature, making the cold their ally. Their true strength lay in their ability to face trials with dignity rather than hide from them. This incredible method of daily training for the internal organs inspires genuine admiration and immense respect. Please like this video if you too are amazed by the resilience of indigenous peoples. Your engagement helps our channel discover and share new fascinating historical facts. Surviving in such conditions required incredible resourcefulness and 100% commitment from every individual. Many more amazing discoveries about the lives of true masters of winter survival await us. What would happen if no one knew about this method of moving through winter snow? The tribe's young warriors regularly practiced long runs barefoot through deep, cold snowdrifts. For a modern city dweller, such activity would almost certainly result in a long recovery from frostbite. However, for the indigenous people, this was a completely normal practice aimed at strengthening the immune system. Such vigorous runs were undertaken regularly, regardless of the strength of the biting, piercing winter wind. The human feet possess a vast number of nerve endings that are directly linked to the functioning of internal organs. The contact of bare skin with icy snow triggered a powerful mechanism to activate all of the body's defenses. During such intense running, blood rushed to the feet, preventing the tissues from freezing. It was a magnificent and completely free workout for the young warrior's entire cardiovascular system. This practice made the feet incredibly resistant to the cold during long winter treks on foot. Running barefoot on the snow required a special technique and intense concentration with every step. One could not stop for even a second to avoid dangerous hypothermia of the feet. Constant, intense movement ensured a continuous generation of internal heat, warming the body from the soles of the feet. Over time, the skin on the soles became rough and thick, turning into natural, durable footwear. This allowed for free movement across hard snow without the risk of accidental minor injuries. Such training sessions were usually held at dawn, when the snow cover was at its hardest and cleanest. Runners chose flat areas without sharp rocks or dangerous obstacles hidden under the snow. The distance was increased very gradually so that the body could get used to the new level of extreme exertion. After finishing the run, the feet were thoroughly rubbed with a dry cloth until a sensation of intense heat arose. Only after normal blood circulation had fully returned was it permitted to put on warm winter footwear. This hardening method also had enormous practical significance in the conditions of real winter life. In the event of sudden danger or the loss of footwear, a person could save themselves by fleeing across the snow-covered plain. Their trained legs did not fail them in a critical situation, ensuring high speed and agility. An untrained traveler, however, would quickly lose the ability to move and inevitably freeze to death in such a situation. Therefore, this rigorous training was considered a vital skill for every active member of the tribe. In addition to physical endurance, running barefoot in the snow fostered tremendous willpower and determination. Overcoming the instinctive fear of the biting cold forged a strong and unyielding inner character. A person learned to fully control their sensations and subjugate the body to the power of their own cool, rational mind. This mental toughening was no less important than physical preparation for the harsh conditions of winter. It helped maintain calm and absolute clarity of thought in the most extreme and unforeseen situations. Interestingly, this practice did not lead to frequent colds among the runners. On the contrary, People who regularly ran in the snow were distinguished by incredibly robust health and remarkable longevity. Their immune systems functioned flawlessly, quickly eliminating any threats in their earliest stages. The body simply didn't have time to get sick, as it was in a state of constant and effective readiness. This striking phenomenon once again proves the incredible adaptive capabilities of a healthy human body. Today, this ancient practice finds echoes in some modern methods of non-traditional hardening. Enthusiasts of winter swimming and barefoot running also report a significant improvement in their overall well-being. However, few are capable of achieving the level of endurance demonstrated by the indigenous inhabitants of the plains. Their way of life left them no choice, forcing them to use every available means to survive. For them, the cold was not an exotic pastime, but a harsh daily reality and a test. Examining such historical facts forces us to take a fresh look at our accustomed level of comfort. We have grown accustomed to surrounding ourselves with warmth and avoiding even the slightest exposure to adverse weather conditions. However, it is precisely this contact with the elements that makes the human body truly strong and resilient. The experience of the Great Plains settlers serves as a vivid reminder of what we are truly capable of. Their incredible endurance will forever remain a phenomenal example of harmonious coexistence with the harsh natural world. In the next chapter, you'll learn how they coped with this terrible weather during their winter meals. This incredible dietary rule will forever change your perception of home comfort. They never heated their food if they wanted to preserve and increase their internal energy. You'll be very surprised by how their bodies process such icy foods, but we'll discuss this in detail in the next part of our story. In winter, indigenous peoples often ate food in a completely cold, unheated state. To us, it seems perfectly natural to eat hot soups and dishes to warm up quickly in the cold. The peoples of the plains had a completely opposite view on the process of maintaining their body's internal temperature. They believed that cold food forces the body to generate more natural internal heat on its own. This process greatly stimulated digestion and promoted better absorption of nutrients from simple foods. The diet during the cold months consisted mainly of dried meat mixed with fat and berries. This nutritious food was incredibly high in calories and could be stored in the cold throughout the long winter months. It was often eaten on the go, without lighting fires or wasting precious daylight hours. Frozen pieces of such food had to be chewed long and thoroughly before swallowing. This ensured a steady supply of energy and a long-lasting feeling of fullness in harsh climatic conditions. The consumption of cold food was linked not only to physiology, but also to simple economy. In treeless areas, building a fire to heat food was an extremely difficult and resource-intensive task. Dry firewood was saved exclusively for heating dwellings at night and for drying clothes. The habit of eating whatever was at hand made people incredibly mobile and unpretentious travelers. They could make long treks without needing to stop to cook hot meals. The stomach of a trained person handled the digestion of such dense, frozen, heavy food perfectly. The internal organs generated enough heat to quickly melt the fat and extract maximum energy. This process required a significant expenditure of calories, but ultimately brought enormous benefits to the entire body. The body received a powerful boost of energy and the ability to withstand the biting cold wind for a long time. Such a diet was the ideal fuel for an active life in sub-zero temperatures. Interestingly, hot food was sometimes perceived by them as relaxing and weakening the human body. After a hearty hot meal, the body craved rest and sleep, which was dangerous in the cold. Cold food, on the other hand, invigorated them and forced them to keep moving constantly to maintain their body heat. This helped them stay alert and ready for any unforeseen situations on the dangerous winter plains. That is precisely why, before difficult treks, they always chose not to heat up their modest provisions. This approach to nutrition required a perfectly healthy digestive system without the slightest functional glitch. From childhood, the indigenous people accustomed their stomachs to coarse and uncooked winter food. Their gut flora was adapted to digest raw or frozen ingredients without any complications. For modern people, such a drastic change in diet would pose serious digestive health problems. Their incredible adaptation was shaped by centuries of harsh natural selection in an unpredictable climate zone. In addition to dried meat, winter rations also included edible roots and wild berries gathered in the fall. These were stored in special ice pits, where they remained fresh until the long-awaited spring. These foods were also eaten cold, providing the necessary vitamins to maintain a strong natural immune system. The winter diet, meager at first glance, was perfectly balanced for the needs of an actively working body. It ensured the survival of entire settlements in conditions where any other diet would have been ineffective. Avoiding the constant consumption of hot food made these peoples true masters of winter survival. They were not tied to a hearth and could move freely across their vast hunting grounds. Their endurance allowed them to cover enormous distances through deep snow with minimal provisions. Cold food was not merely a necessity, but a deliberate strategy for maintaining high physical activity. It was the fuel of the victors, capable of defying the harshest and most unforgiving North American winter. This phenomenon vividly illustrates the resilience and unique capabilities of a healthy human body. With proper preparation, our body is capable of deriving benefit even from the most extreme dietary conditions. The practice of eating cold food proves that our internal energy reserves are truly colossal and astonishing. We've grown accustomed to making life easier for our stomachs, forgetting that hardships make us stronger. The experience of ancient people forces us to rethink many modern dogmas about proper and comfortable nutrition. Nowadays, few people would dare to replace a hot winter lunch with a piece of frozen dried food. However, understanding how the body functions under extreme conditions expands the boundaries of what is possible. This knowledge can be useful for hikers, climbers, and all lovers of winter outdoor adventures. Understanding how cold food ignites an inner fire can save a life in a critical situation. This is yet another amazing survival lesson from those who knew a thing or two about real cold. What lies behind the beautiful picture of a winter landscape holds many secrets. In the endless snow-covered prairies, where the horizon merges with the sky, survival became a true art. To survive fierce blizzards in the open, the Lakota built temporary snow shelters of astonishing structural strength. These people understood nature better than anyone else and knew how to use its harshness to their advantage. In the absence of caves and dense forests, snow became their only reliable building material. The process of erecting such a shelter required not only physical strength, but also a deep understanding of the physics of cold. These shelters were built in a matter of minutes and saved travelers from certain freezing in the biting wind. Warriors and hunters knew that lingering on the prairie during a blizzard was tantamount to death. They utilized snow's natural ability to trap warm air within a small enclosed space. Snow served as an excellent insulator, keeping the cold out and preserving precious heat inside. The construction principle involved creating a dense dome from compacted, hard-packed snow or a deep snowdrift. First, a person would find a suitable spot where the wind had already piled up a sufficiently dense mass of snow. Inside, a small niche was carefully dug out, sized exactly to accommodate one person sitting down. This was critically important for survival in an extreme situation. Every unnecessary movement during construction could cause the dome to collapse, so one had to proceed with great care. A shelter that was too spacious could not be warmed by body heat in a short period of time. The Lakota knew that the volume of air inside had to be minimal for efficient heat exchange. The walls of such a shelter provided reliable insulation from the icy wind, creating a tolerable temperature inside the compact snow capsule. Even if a blizzard raged outside, relative silence and calm prevailed inside. The snow wall became an insurmountable barrier against even the most severe cold. The air in the enclosed space quickly warmed from ordinary human breath, preventing rapid, critical hypothermia. In such an icy hut, the temperature could rise to quite acceptable levels compared to the street. The skin stopped going numb, and the limbs gradually warmed up in this cramped but life-saving space. This ability to build with whatever was at hand made the indigenous people of the plains practically invulnerable. History has preserved many instances where such simple skills saved entire groups from certain death. In the next chapter, you'll learn how they coped with this terrible weather through proper breathing. The air on the plains was so cold that it burned the lungs of an unprepared modern city dweller. A normal breath while running could lead to an instant spasm and serious damage to internal tissues. But the locals knew a very special secret for inhaling and exhaling in the bitter winter cold. They trained this skill from childhood, preparing their bodies for harsh trials. This unique technique allowed them to move even in the fiercest and most blinding snowstorms. While others froze from lack of oxygen, the Lakota continued on their way, maintaining their internal heat. The correct breathing rhythm helped distribute heat evenly and efficiently throughout the body. It always reliably saved them from a multitude of serious respiratory problems and severe protracted illnesses. Knowledge of these secrets allowed a person to remain in control even in an icy hell. Proper breathing in the cold was a vital skill taught from the earliest years. Inhaling icy air through the mouth inevitably led to serious damage to the upper respiratory tract. Therefore, the main rule for winter travel was strict control over breathing exclusively through the nose. The nasal passages acted as a natural radiator, warming and humidifying the incoming cold, dry air. This protected the delicate lung tissue from thermal shock and prevented dangerous respiratory complications. During periods of the most extreme cold, a technique of intermittent and very shallow breathing was used. People inhaled small portions of air, pausing briefly before each subsequent slow exhalation. This gave the body extra time to warm the oxygen before it reached the deep sections of the lungs. Exhalation was often done through tightly pursed lips to trap warm air within the respiratory system. This conservation of heat was critically important during grueling treks across open, windy terrain. Breathing practices also help control heart rate and overall physical stress levels. Steady breathing calmed the nervous system, preventing panic when caught in a severe and unpredictable blizzard. Focusing on inhalations and exhalations allowed them to distract themselves from the piercing cold and fatigue. It was a form of meditation in motion, helping to maintain clarity of mind in critical situations. The ability to control one's breathing was considered a sign of maturity and a high degree of self-control among experienced travelers. The ability to move through deep snow unnoticed was another key to successful survival in winter. In the endless snow-white desert, any dark silhouette was visible from several kilometers away to the naked eye. The absence of trees and shrubs made a person an easy target for enemies or predators. To avoid standing out against the backdrop of the endless plains, the Lakota developed an entire system of visual camouflage. Therefore, special capes made from light-colored natural materials were always used for winter treks. These capes were typically made from bleached animal hides or light-colored suede, which did not reflect the sun's glare. They blended perfectly with the surrounding landscape, making a person virtually invisible against the backdrop of snowdrifts and frozen ice. Such gear allowed hunters to approach their prey as closely as possible without arousing suspicion. This technique was indispensable for safe movement through areas where it was completely impossible to find reliable natural cover. Even an experienced observer could not immediately spot a group of people clad in such winter clothing. In addition to visual camouflage, great attention was paid to the correct way of walking through very loose and deep snow. In deep snowdrifts, a person quickly loses strength if they sink waist-deep with every step. To avoid sinking and leaving deep, noticeable tracks, wide woven snowshoes made of flexible branches were used. These devices were a brilliant invention, proven by many centuries of harsh living. They were securely fastened to winter footwear using sturdy leather straps and tendons. The snowshoes worked on a simple physical principle, significantly increasing a person's base of support. They evenly distributed body weight, allowing one to glide easily over even the softest and fluffiest snowdrifts. This transformed an exhausting trek into a fairly quick and efficient journey across the winter steppe. The stride became smooth and virtually silent, saving a tremendous amount of energy during the long, grueling journey. Proper distribution of effort allowed travelers to cover dozens of kilometers a day without showing signs of severe fatigue. This specific gait required exceptional coordination and highly developed lower body muscles in every traveler. From early childhood, the Lakota grew accustomed to the physical demands of walking across snow-covered, rugged terrain. They had to be able to maintain their balance and place their feet correctly so as not to snag on branches hidden under the snow. Every movement had to be measured and precise to maintain the necessary pace. Thanks to this training, they could cover enormous distances where others simply got stuck in snowdrifts. These methods of stealthy movement turned people into true ghosts of the winter plains. Completely beyond the reach of the elements, they could appear and disappear absolutely silently, using fresh snow as their primary natural camouflage. Even after a large group had passed, the tracks were quickly swept away by the wind, leaving no clues behind. Nature was their faithful ally, providing ideal conditions for concealment to those who knew how to use them. The Lakota felt safe where outsiders felt only fear and utter helplessness. This ancient art required flawless knowledge of the terrain and the ability to instantly read the slightest changes in the snow cover. A person had to understand where the snow was solid and where a dangerous void or trap lay hidden beneath it. Intuition and experience allowed them to find their way even in the complete absence of visible landmarks. Their navigational skills in thick white fog still inspire genuine admiration among modern professional explorers. Even with modern equipment, it is difficult to replicate the feats that the indigenous people accomplished in winter. Night on the Great Plains brought with it the sharpest and most dangerous drop in winter temperatures. Modern people instinctively seek shelter and go to sleep when darkness falls during the cold season. However, experienced inhabitants of the plains often chose nighttime specifically for making the fastest treks. In the darkness, the wind usually died down, and the snow crust became hard and ideal for fast gliding. This allowed them to cover significant distances with less physical exertion than on a bright sunny day. During a night march, a person's continuous and intense physical movement became the main source of heat. Stopping for a long rest was strictly forbidden, as it risked rapid and fatal freezing. People moved at a steady, measured pace, maintaining their body heat through the constant work of all their major muscles. They were guided by the bright winter stars and the barely visible outlines of distant mountain ranges on the horizon. Their ability to find their way accurately in pitch darkness was the result of phenomenal visual and spatial memory. By morning, when the frost became particularly unbearable, the group would reach a pre-designated safe spot. Only then would they set up camp, build shelters, and allow themselves a long-awaited and well-deserved rest. During the day, when the sun warmed the air slightly, they slept in safety, regaining their strength for the next push. This inverted schedule of activity was a brilliant adaptation to the harsh rhythms of the North American continental winter. It proves that, in order to survive, it is sometimes necessary to completely abandon familiar behavioral patterns. All these remarkable survival practices were based on a completely unique philosophy of relating to the surrounding world. Indigenous peoples never attempted to conquer nature or rise above its inexorable and strict laws. They understood that humans are merely a small part of a vast ecosystem in which everything is interconnected. For the Lakota, the environment was not a hostile territory to be conquered at any cost. They viewed the frost, snow, and biting wind as an integral part of a great and wise world order. Every natural phenomenon carried deep meaning and an important life lesson. For them, the cold was not their worst enemy, but a stern teacher, weeding out the weak and tempering the strong. Winter was considered a time of purification and a test of the human spirit's resilience. During this harsh period, the true qualities of every warrior and every woman of the tribe were revealed. This deep respect for the elements imbued every action with meaning and incredible inner awareness. Every movement, whether building a shelter or lighting a fire, was performed with a full understanding of responsibility. Nature demanded the utmost concentration and honesty with oneself. Such a worldview completely ruled out panic and despair, even in the most hopeless and critical climatic situations. While modern people are overcome with terror in the face of a blizzard, the indigenous inhabitants of the plains retained their clarity of mind. They knew that fear takes away warmth much faster than even the strongest Arctic wind. Calmness was their main weapon, helping them make the right decisions in a matter of seconds. A person knew for certain that their body was capable of withstanding incredible strain as long as the mind remained absolutely calm. Confidence in their own strength was passed down from ancestors through legends and personal experience. They never wasted precious energy on empty complaints or senseless fear of raging storms. Instead, they directed all their strength and attention toward performing simple tasks for survival. Every breath and every step was aimed at maintaining inner balance and warmth. Mental fortitude was the solid foundation upon which all their physical practices for overcoming the cold were built. If a person's spirit was broken, no external tools could help them anymore. Inner discipline was as strong as the ice on winter rivers. Without this deep inner discipline, no tricks involving snow or wet clothing would have saved their lives. It was willpower that allowed them to endure pain and cold for many days and nights. The Lakota believed that the spirit of the frost was testing them, and only the worthy would see the spring sun. They knew how to find beauty in the frozen steppe and silence at the very center of a snowstorm. This art of living in harmony with the cold made them the greatest masters of survival in history. Their philosophy teaches us that true strength is born from accepting reality as it is. The experience of the inhabitants of the Great Plains is an invaluable lesson in survival for all of modern civilized humanity. It shows just how far we have strayed from our natural roots in the pursuit of domestic comfort. Our bodies possess incredible hidden potential that is activated only when we step outside our comfort zone. Studying these ancient methods forces us to reevaluate our own physical and mental capabilities. Their story will forever stand as a monument to the indomitable human spirit and its incredible ability to adapt to any conditions. Which of these survival lessons do you think remain relevant today? Suggest topics for future videos you'd like to see on our channel in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new episodes.